Welcome to Janet's Plant-Powered Kitchen, where plants are powerful. Today we are going to be making green tofu scramble. What I love about this recipe is that it only has 3 main ingredients and it goes together quick and easy. We have tofu. Tofu is a plant-based food made from soybeans. It's high in protein, it's low in calories, and it's also high in iron and calcium. We have a bag of frozen peas and then also some chopped asparagus. So let's go ahead and start with the peas. The first thing that you're going to do with your bag of green peas is you need to thaw them out. I have pre-thawed them for the purpose of this demonstration. You can do it in the microwave. You can set them in warm water for a few minutes in the bag, whatever it takes. You can just leave them on the countertop, but you want to try to thaw out your beans ahead of time. The asparagus, as you can see, I just cut them into little bite-sized chunks, just little chunks of asparagus. Here are my stalks of asparagus, and the tips will actually cook faster than the stems. Some people like to cut the tips off of the asparagus and set them aside and then cut the stems. Cooking the stems first and then adding the tips at the end of the cooking time so that everything cooks evenly. I tend to like to be quick and easy, so I just put it in all together. But when I cut my asparagus, again, it's just 2 cups. I have this wonderful chef's knife, and I just go back and forth in a rocking motion, trying to keep the pieces consistently similar in size. If it's not perfect, that is okay, until I get close to the end. Okay, and since I cut this up, I'm going to go ahead and add it to my 2 cups. It'll be a little bit more than 2 cups, but that is okay. So I've got my asparagus ready to go. So I'm going to bring it over here to the stove. Okay, and it's time to cook the asparagus. So what I have is a 9-inch pot, and I have filled it with water a couple inches deep. And I'm going to put my steamer basket, it opens up like this. I'm going to put it inside of my pot, and my goal here is to steam the asparagus. So I'm going to turn the oven on, I'm going to put the lid on, and when the water starts to boil, I will put the asparagus in, cook it for about 8 minutes. It's a good idea to check it. You don't want it to be too mushy. I like mine cooked but with a little bit of crunch. If you like yours really mushy, that's okay too, but it is good to check it after about 6 minutes and just see how it's coming along. Okay, so we're going to let the water boil. The next thing that I'm going to do is take my tofu, and if you've never worked with tofu before, when you open up the package, it's going to be watery. I chose the firm tofu. The reason I chose firm is because it will have less water than just regular tofu. So what I did is I opened up the package and I tipped it over and I drained out the water that was in the packaging. For some recipes, you'll need a tofu press or some way to get the water out of the tofu. For the purposes of this recipe, we are going to be cooking the tofu in this pan. So really all I did was I drained the water out of the container, and then I wrapped my block of tofu in a dry, clean dish towel, and I just squeezed it a little bit to get some of the extra water out, and then I put it in my pan, and I just used a fork and I kind of scrambled it to make it look like this. And the next thing I'm going to do is turn on my stove burner onto medium, and I'm going to start to cook the tofu. While it's cooking, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of paprika and 1 teaspoon of garlic to my tofu. Tofu is great because it will absorb whatever flavoring you put into it. I'm going to stir the tofu up to get all the seasonings blended, and then I'm going to let it cook. As it cooks, the tofu will begin to brown, and you'll want to take your spatula, just like you do with scrambled eggs, and kind of move it around a little bit. And so we're going to pause the video and come back in just a minute when both of these are cooked. Okay, we are 6 minutes into cooking time. So it took about 6 minutes to cook my tofu, and you can see it looks kind of like scrambled eggs, the texture there. A lot of the moisture has been cooked up. And what I'm going to do next is add a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to go ahead and add a ½ teaspoon of pepper, maybe a ¼ teaspoon of salt, and I'll mix that into my tofu mixture. Now I did check my asparagus at the 6 minute mark, and for me personally, it was great. So I turned the stove top off, but here's my asparagus. It was had just a little bit of a crunch, but it was soft, but it was not mushy. So I'm going to take my asparagus and I'm going to drain it, drain the excess water off in the sink, and I'll put it back in the bowl. So I have a strainer here in the sink. You may not be able to see it. But here we go. I get the extra water out. I'll put it back in my pan, just so that I can carry it back over to the stove. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my cooked asparagus and I'm going to add it to the tofu, scrambled tofu. I'm going to mix that up, and then I'm going to take my sweet peas, which I already thawed out. I did mine in the microwave, and I'm going to add those to the tofu scramble. And I mix everything together. And then I'm going to add some more seasoning. I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of liquid aminos. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm also going to do 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. 1, 2, and 3. When it's all said and done, you may want to add extra liquid aminos. You may want more lemon juice. You'll have to taste it and just see what works for you. Maybe you want to add more salt and pepper. But basically, this is the green tofu scramble. I mix it all together, and you can't smell it through the camera screen, but it does smell really good in here. And what I'm going to do next is get my plate, put some tofu scramble on the plate. This would make a great breakfast. You could serve it with whole grain toast of some kind, with chia jam, which we'll get around to making that sometime as well. But here's my tofu scramble. I am going to top it with some slivered almonds. Again, it's not necessary that you do, but I like to add them. It's a healthy fat and it adds a little bit of crunch. And here's the tofu scramble. We're going to give it a try. Delicious. Plant power tip of the day. Eating whole food plant-based can save you money at the grocery store. This asparagus tofu scramble was very cheap. The asparagus that I used in the recipe, it was just one bunch of asparagus. It was $3.57. My frozen peas were 98 cents. My block of extra firm tofu was 98 cents, which came to a grand total of $7.05. And this is clearly more than one serving size. 2-3 people could eat from the pan. $7.05 for a meal, that can't be beat. Thank you for joining me at Janet's Plant Powered Kitchen today. If you would like to try this recipe, you'll find it in the comment section below. And if you like my videos, I encourage you to subscribe. I'll put out a new one every week.